You are 8 years old. The men who bought you don't know your name. In 90 seconds you will be cut. And Mughal India will need you, and deny you, for the next 500 years. This is the part where the documentary you watched before said acquired through specific channels. That is not a sentence. That is a coward's ledger entry. Cohen, 1995. Hogendorn, 1999. Marmon, 1995. The scholarship exists. The euphemism is a choice. Today, we are not in a hurry. 2 answer sheets exist for the same body. One written by emperors. One written by archives. One written by tax collectors and court chroniclers who needed the labor and refused the personhood that came with it. The other one written by the people who survived emperors and archives, written in temple stone in Mehsana, Gujarat, dated to roughly 1152 CE, written in 18 days every April in a Tamil village called Kuvagam, written in a Guru Kela kinship line that outlasted 3 empires and a colonial penal code. Pre-modern South Asia was not a queer utopia. It was also not a pure victim of one. Tolerated is not the same word as accepted. Hold both. If you are South Asian and queer or trans, this is not your origin story turned exotic on a streaming platform. This is your inheritance. Uncovered. 2 answer sheets. Today, we read both. Before we go any further, 3 words. 3 life paths. Not one. The flattening starts when historians forget that. Hijra, South Asian umbrella term, third gender community, kinship-based. Khwaja-sara, Mughal court-specific role, Persian-derived, administrative. Darunangai Tamil, self-designation, primarily South Indian, community affirmed. Kinner modern Hindi term, post-1990s legal context, Nalsa era. 3 paths into these communities. Not one. Path 1, intersex-born. Children whose bodies the village midwife described in language we now translate, imperfectly, as third gender. The path the archive almost never names cleanly, because the archive almost never cared to. Path 2, enslaved castrated. Children sold into Mughal court service. Surgically altered, often before age 10. The path we are most likely to encounter in a colonial archive footnote. The path the camera always lingers on. We will get to it in section 4. We will not stay there longer than the evidence does. Path 3, voluntary initiated. People assigned male at birth, and, the archive is now beginning to suggest, sometimes assigned female at birth, who left their natal kin and chose the Hijra household. The Nirvan rite. The initiation. The new name. The new lineage. Voluntary initiated did the work the colonial archive did not have words for. Some of those lives, today, we would call transmasc. Some we would call trans women. Some would not need our vocabulary at all, and that is allowed to be true. We can name that gap honestly, without inventing what we don't know. 3 paths in. 3 answer sheets inside the answer sheet. And in the next 2 minutes, we go to the one written in a ledger that was not a sentence. The one a documentary you watched before called Acquired Through Specific Channels. Acquired through specific channels. That is not a sentence. That is a coward's ledger entry. The practice has a name. The practice has had a name for 400 years. Child mutilation. Forced surgery on minors. The castration of children sold into the slave trade and routed, by long-distance commercial networks, into Mughal court service. Cohen, 1995. Hogendorn, 1999. Marmon, 1995. The scholarship exists. The euphemism is a choice. Here is what we can say with the receipts in front of us. A market existed. It moved children. The children were almost always sold by people who were not their parents, captured, trafficked, transferred across imperial borders the children had no language for. By the time a child reached the surgical site, the contract had already been written, in someone else's hand, in someone else's profit column. The procedure was unanesthetized. The procedure was performed on children. We will not narrate it. We will not need to. This is where every previous documentary gets quiet. This is where the camera blurs the math, drops the citation, and reaches for a soft focus harem painting. We are not in a hurry. How many children died from this procedure? We do not know. Not historians say. Not it is understood that. We do not know. Comparative scholarship on the trans-Saharan and Arab slave trade contexts describes the procedure as catastrophically dangerous. Hogendorn, 1999, reads the comparative trade evidence as suggesting majority mortality. Marmon, 1995, reads the legal and religious record around eunuch status as evidence of a structural dependency that required a constant new supply which itself implies attrition. Figures specific to Mughal-era South Asia are not documented in any source that survives. Anyone who gives you a hard percentage is selling you certainty that does not exist. Hold this part with both hands. These were children. The Mughal economy moved them. The Mughal court used them. The Mughal record keepers, the same scribes who catalogued horses and harem provisions in the Aini Akbari, Book 1, Manzil Abadi, counted them as line items. Load-bearing infrastructure, counted in ink. Denied in personhood. That is answer sheet 1. We have only just started reading it. And then. Same body. Different ledger. The first one called you an asset. This one calls you a devotee of a goddess who herself crossed. Bahuchara Mata, a Gujarati goddess whose principal shrine sits in a village called Becharaji, in Mehsana district. The temple's earliest documented patronage runs to roughly the 12th century 1152 CE in the strongest reading of the inscriptional record. She is depicted seated atop a rooster, four-armed, carrying sword and mace and trident and the discus. Within the living tradition, she is the goddess of transition, the deity invoked by Hijra and Thirunangai communities, at the moment a person crosses one threshold of being into another. Here is the part the colonial archive could not write, so it did not write it. This is the part where we have to refuse two reductions at the same time. Reduction 1, call it magic, call it exotic, call it the spiritual specialty of a marginalized people the modern world has graciously rediscovered. No, it is older than that reading. And it is uglier when reduced to it. Reduction 2, call it coping, call it the psychological compensation, a brutalized community built to survive a brutal economy. Also, no. It is older than the economy that brutalized it. The 1152 CE patronage date precedes the Mughal court by almost 400 years. You do not have to choose between calling this real theology and calling it survival theology. The colonial archive needs you to choose. You do not owe it that. Both answer sheets are written in ink that does not wash out. That is the first callback. There are 4 more. Now we read the third ledger. Same body. Third counting house. The Mughal court. The court did not just permit khwaja-sara to exist inside it. The court, and this is the part the soft focus harem painting cannot show you, the court could not function without them. 4 roles. Hold them all at once. 1. Harem administration. The interior household of the imperial family, financial flows, supply chains, internal discipline. The entire domestic engine of the dynasty ran day to day through khwaja-sara administrators. 2. Treasury custodianship. Khwaja-sara held keys, ledgers, and sealed strongrooms aristocrats with sons could not be trusted near. 3. Diplomatic intermediation. They moved between the women's quarters, the emperor's audience hall, and the foreign embassies, translating not just languages but registers of power. 4. Dynastic succession management. A court official with no dynastic stake of his own is the only official who can be trusted to count the heirs honestly. A child trafficked into the court at 8 grew up holding the household keys at 28. This is not a redemption arc. Indispensable. Not loved, not accepted, indispensable. There is a difference, and the difference is the entire thesis. The harem ran on khwaja-sara administrators. The treasury ran on khwaja-sara custodians. The succession of emperors ran on people the empire refused to fully recognize as people. That is not utopia. That is structural dependency without structural respect. Tolerated is not the same word as accepted. Mughal India needed Hijras' bodies. Mughal India denied Hijras their humanity. That is the second callback. There are 3 more. The court fell. The empire fell. The British came. The British went home. Guru Chela did not. Guru Chela, teacher and disciple. The kinship line that did the work, birth family, refused and survived every political order that tried to dismantle it. 4 functions. Hold them lightly. Property inheritance. Chela inherits from Guru, when birth kin will not. Ritual succession. The rights the household carries are taught down the line, not down the bloodline. Economic redistribution. Bad high earnings. Alms. The community insurance against hunger pooled through the Guru Chela household, not the natal one. Protection. The household stood between the individual and a state that did not legally acknowledge either one. This is the part where a softer documentary would call it chosen family and reach for the swelling string section. We will not. Chosen family is not automatically gentle. Guru Chela lineages have their own hierarchies, their own exclusions, their own internal economic disputes. Pretending otherwise is its own kind of disrespect. Both. The structure that protected, and the structure that policed. Both. Always both. Empires fall. Colonial laws come and go. The British went home. Guru Chela did not. That is not a slogan. That is 2.5 centuries of receipts. The British did not invent the contempt. They did invent the paperwork. 19 August 1871. The Criminal Tribes Act passes the Imperial Legislative Council. Hijra households are placed on a register. Local police are instructed to surveil, restrict movement, and prosecute. A community that had survived Mughal collapse and 3 earlier political orders is administratively reclassified as a criminal class. Not tolerated, not accepted, criminalized in writing. The repeal does not arrive in one piece. It arrives slowly, and unevenly, and in 3 places. Madras Presidency 1947, Bombay Presidency 1949. The Central Repeal of the Criminal Tribes Act 1952. 5 years after the British went home, the paperwork they left behind was finally taken off the books. The surveillance reflex was not. Fast forward 62 years. 15 April 2014. The Supreme Court of India. Writ Petition. Civil Number 400 of 2012. Justices K.S. Radhakrishnan and A.K. Sikri presiding. The case is called Nalsa versus Union of India. Read the citation, not the headline. The lead petitioner is NALSA, the National Legal Services Authority, a statutory body. The named co-petitioners include Laxmi Narayan Tripathi, filing alongside the Puja Mata Nasu Kaurji Women Welfare Society. Laxmi Narayan Tripathi was a named co-petitioner, not the lead. The documentaries that shortened that sentence to Laxmi sued the government shortened it past the point of accuracy. Saving time costs accuracy. We are not in a hurry. The Supreme Court did not grant rights. The Supreme Court recognized rights the community already held, and the state had been denying. Paragraph 129. Read it yourself. 5 years later, 2019. The Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act passes Parliament. The community holds protests against the act it is named after. Self-identification requires a district magistrate's certification. Penalties for crimes against trans persons are set lower than penalties for the same crimes against cisgender citizens. Litigation continues. Today, the law changed. The surveillance reflex did not. The first answer sheet did not get rewritten. It got reprinted. 500 years later, both are still being written. That is the third callback. There are 2 more. Leave Delhi. Leave Agra. Leave the court. Go south. Kuvagam, a village in Kalakurchi district, Tamil Nadu. A temple to Kuttandavar, also called Kuttandavar. A festival, every year, in the Tamil month of Chitrai. 18 days. Aravan. In the Mahabharata Adiparva, son of Arjuna, and Ulupi the Naga princess. A figure who, in the older text, agrees to a battlefield sacrifice the night before he dies, and asks to be married first. The Thiruvangai community marries Aravan on the 17th night. On the 18th, they mourn his death. The bangles break. The sari turns white. The hair is cut. A marriage on the 17th. A funeral on the 18th. Done every year. Done this year. Will be done next year. The ethnographic record is confident for the community structure. It is careful, and we are too, for the specific ritual choreography across the centuries. Padabiraman's account is the clearest available. We are reading with him, not over him, both archive and ritual. The first answer sheet is paper. The second answer sheet walks. It is walking right now. The Mughal court does not get a vote. It never did. That is the 4th callback. There is one left, one aphorism, the 5th and last. Mughal India needed Hijra's bodies. Mughal India denied Hijras their humanity. 2 answer sheets. 500 years later, both are still being written. The archive forgot. The festival did not. If you are South Asian and queer, or trans, from India, from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, from Nepal, or from a diaspora that carries those countries inside it, this was for you, not at you, for you. The receipts are real. The lineage is real. The festival is on the calendar this year, and next year, and the year after that. Thank you for being here.